My girlfriend boasted on social media that she would be single until someone was worth her time, while she was still living in my house. I replied with sarcasm. I changed my status to happily single, and in less than a minute, her post disappeared. My name is Adrian, I'm 27, and I've been dating Sierra, 26, for 2 years. We've been living together for 1 year. In everyone's eyes, we were the perfect couple. Coordinated photos, trips full of selfies, nice dinners. The reality was different. Behind that facade, our relationship was becoming unsustainable. She seemed more interested in the likes and attention than in what we shared. I slowly realized I had bought a ticket to a circus I never wanted to join. That very morning, we had argued over a trivial thing. She complained about me not taking out the trash the night before. I told her I would do it after work because the bags weren't even full, but she replied with contempt, "You never follow through on the small things, Adrian. That's why I feel like you're not trying anymore." I let it go, though her words stuck in my head. It wasn't the trash that mattered, but the tone she used, as if it were proof that I was a slacker. During my lunch break, half asleep, I opened Instagram. There it was, one of those aesthetic posts with a beige background and cursive letters. Single until someone proves they are worth my time. Know your value, queens. And the author was none other than my girlfriend. Instead of getting angry, I laughed. Here I was, paying rent, cooking, following through, and she was promoting herself as if she were a free agent in a draft. So I made my move. I left a comment. Good luck. Have fun with that. Then I changed my status to happily single and tagged her. Precise, no shouting or scenes, a surgical strike. Yes, my status said single, but rent doesn't pay itself immediately. It wasn't about moving out right away. It was about sending a clear message. Her post disappeared in less than a minute, but the damage was done. Her phone must have been burning up, and mine too. 12 missed calls, one after another. The group chat with her friends looked like Times Square on New Year's Eve. I simply silenced everything and finished my lunch. When I got home, I found her sitting on the sofa, arms crossed, and a furious look on her face. As soon as I opened the door, she launched into, "What the hell was that?" I left my keys on the table and replied, "Your announcement about being single, or my agreement with you?" Her jaw tightened. "It was just a quote, Adrian. All girls post stuff like that." "Yes, all single girls, not the ones who have a boyfriend in the same apartment." She rolled her eyes as if I were overreacting. "You're being dramatic. It didn't mean anything." "Great. Then my response didn't mean anything either." That silenced her for a few seconds, but then she scoffed. She grabbed her bag and threw out, "I'm staying at Marisol's tonight. Maybe you'll understand how ridiculous you're being." I smiled calmly. "Take your time." She slammed the door shut. The old me might have run after her, pleaded, fallen into her game, but the current me didn't. I ordered a pizza, turned on the console, and watched the game in peace. It felt like a mini vacation. While she was probably ranting to Marisol, I imagined her face checking my status on social media. Enraged. The best part was doing everything she hated in one night, playing games for hours, leaving the pizza boxes on the table and enjoying myself without her. And yes, some might say, why didn't you just break up with her right then? Well, with someone so delusional, you don't just break up, you let them drown in their own drama. It's much more satisfying to watch them catch fire with their own spectacle. My phone didn't stop vibrating all night. First her, then notifications of all kinds. Voice messages saying I was destroying something good. I, with breadsticks in hand, only thought, good for whom? She wanted attention by saying she was single, but I ended up looking like the villain for wishing her luck. That was mental gymnastics on an Olympic level. Honestly, if there were a competition for ignorance, Sierra would have secured a medal. I slept like a baby that night. No snoring next to me, no passive-aggressive messages about how to fold laundry. For the first time in months, I had peace, and I knew this was just the beginning. With someone like her, one post wouldn't be enough. She was going to double down, but I was ready. Because when you remain calm, sarcastic, and unperturbed, there's nothing more frightening to someone who lives for drama. That Instagram post wasn't just a quote. It was her opening move, and my comment was returning the ball with an ironic smile. She was looking for attention, and boy did she get it, but not the kind she expected. The next morning, I woke up to about 20 unread messages, half from Sierra, half from Marisol, her best friend and self-proclaimed defender of the female gender. They all said the same thing, that I humiliated her, that I embarrassed her, that I should apologize. The best one was from Marisol. A real man doesn't behave so childishly on social media. I stared at the message on the screen and burst out laughing. A real girlfriend doesn't post on social media that she's single, but hey, details, right? I didn't dwell on it. I made coffee, took out the trash almost cheerfully, just to contradict the complaint she had made hours earlier, and left for work as if nothing had happened. If she thought manipulating me with guilt through her best friend would work, she didn't know my capacity for indifference. At noon, the phone vibrated again. This time, it wasn't Marisol, but her mother, Linda. 7 missed calls. I decided to answer just to hear what script she was reading from. "Adrian, honey," she said with that worried mother voice she uses to sound sweet. "What's going on?" "Sierra is devastated. She says you publicly attacked her." "Attack her?" I replied incredulously. I wasn't exactly storming Normandy. She posted a catchy phrase and then announced she was single. I just confirmed what she said herself. "You know how girls are on social media. It's just for fun," she tried to justify. "Then cheating is also for fun because it looks like an announcement." Silence. She had no ready reply for that one. Finally, she sighed. "You should apologize. She's very upset. She knows where I live. If she wants to talk, she can come here." I hung up. The truth is, Linda was always the original source of Sierra's excessive ego. She treats her as if she were a divine gift to men, and expects anyone to be grateful just for being near her. I wasn't surprised she came to her defense. It was the only thing she knew how to do. That night, far from feeling bad, I decided to enjoy myself. I ordered wings, played games on the console for a few hours, and then connected to Discord with my friends. They couldn't stop laughing when I told them what happened. One even told me, "Bro, you're free, don't waste it," and he was right. Meanwhile, Sierra was still at Marisol's house. The message group lit up again. This time it was Marisol who sent me a wall of text saying I had betrayed Sierra's trust and publicly humiliated her. According to her, my comment was comparable to broadcasting her secrets nationwide. I replied only once. Real girlfriends don't pretend to be single on the internet. Immediately after, I blocked her. Apparently, she couldn't handle having her own logic thrown back at her. Some might say I was being petty, but I didn't start anything. I didn't wake up one morning planning to declare I was single while living with someone. That was her idea. I was only reflecting her own energy. If she could post quotes, I could leave a reminder of reality. By the 3rd day, the storm began to subside. Sierra stopped texting and switched to silence. Marisol wasn't bothering me anymore. And Linda probably went back to nagging Daniel, her husband, about his long work hours. But I knew the matter wasn't over. Sierra never lets anything go. She always escalates conflicts into a full spectacle. And I had a front row seat for the coming performance. That Friday, returning from work, I noticed something odd as soon as I opened the door. A perfume she used. Muffled whispers from the living room. My instinct told me she was back. I wasn't wrong. There she was, sitting with her arms crossed, and Marisol by her side, like a shield maiden. They looked at me as if I were an accused entering their makeshift court. "We need to talk," Sierra began. I left my keys on the counter. "Talk about what? About you being single, or about me confirming it?" Marisol jumped in before Sierra could respond. "You humiliated her, Adrian. Everyone saw it. You made her look ridiculous." I smiled faintly. She managed that herself. I just left a comment. Marisol's face turned red. Sierra huffed, annoyed that I didn't get their point. "It didn't mean anything, Adrian. It was just a post." "Perfect," I replied calmly. Then my response didn't mean anything either. "What's the big deal?" they insisted, circling the issue as if I had committed an unforgivable betrayal. The most absurd thing was that they acted as if I had to earn their forgiveness when it was the other way around. I didn't give them the satisfaction. I remained composed, watching them get tangled in their own words. After 10 minutes of going in circles, I let them have it. "Are you done? I have pizza saved and a new game waiting for me." Sierra jumped up in a fury. "You don't care about anything, do you?" "Exactly," I replied, smiling. "I don't care about Instagram quotes, fake tantrums, or certainly having to babysit your delusions." Marisol gasped as if I had slapped her. Sierra stormed out, dragging Marisol with her, saying I would regret it. I closed the door and opened the pizza box. It was the best dinner in weeks. I saw it clearly. That had only been the first round. She tried to manipulate me with her army and failed. She expected me to run after her, begging for forgiveness. Instead, I was calm, with control in my hand and dinner in front of me, but I sensed it wasn't over yet. Sierra never gives up. A couple of days later, I received a message from Jason, a friend who works at the same marketing company as her. He's the type of person who stays out of drama, so if he was writing to me, something serious was happening. "Hey, I thought you should know. Sierra had lunch with that new account manager all week." "Ethan, they look too close." I read it twice. The same Jason who, 2 months ago, she herself said gave her bad vibes. It seemed those vibes weren't so bad, and now they were sharing a table every lunchtime. Curious, I checked her Instagram. She had already deleted all our photos, as if she wanted to erase me from her history, but Jason was still there. I checked his profile and saw that he had been liking every one of her posts for 3 months, even the gym selfies at 6 a.m. with captions like, "The early bird catches the worm." The guy was practically drooling behind the screen. I saved screenshots of everything, not because I planned to expose her publicly, but because with people like Sierra, you need evidence when they decide to rewrite history. That same night, she texted me for the first time in days. "Are you ready to talk like adults?" I couldn't resist the temptation. I replied, "Sure. Should I invite Jason too? This time it's just between us." She read the message. Absolute silence. I thought that was the end of the matter. I was wrong. 2 days later, I came home after work, and what I saw when I opened the door was so absurd I had to hold back laughter. Sitting at the dining table as if they had organized a diplomatic meeting were Sierra, Marisol, her sister Sophia, and her mother Linda. 4 pairs of eyes fixed on me, with that mixture of reproach and superiority, as if they were about to judge me in an international tribunal. I closed the door slowly, left my keys in my pocket, and with the greatest calm in the world, I dropped this. "Wow, I wasn't told that today was a board meeting." Linda wasted no time in speaking. With that voice loaded with false authority, "Adrian, this has gone too far. Sierra made a small mistake, a slip-up, posting that quote. It wasn't a big deal. You're overreacting and acting like it was something serious." I calmly took off my shoes, leaving them by the entrance, and looked at her without getting upset. "Perfect. Then let me see if I understand. Publicly stating that you're single while living with your boyfriend under the same roof, that's just a small mistake." "Got it." Sophia intervened next, arms crossed, with the air of a defense attorney. "You're focusing on the wrong thing. She loves you." I leaned against the counter, maintaining my composure. "Oh, really? Well, she has a rather curious way of showing it." At that moment, Sierra finally opened her mouth. Until then, she had been silent, but now she spoke with tears in her eyes. And they weren't tears of sadness, but that crying of frustration and anger when someone wants you to play their game and you refuse. "You ruined everything. Since you made that comment, Jason has distanced himself. He told me I seem like drama, that I project problems." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "So, you admit there was something with Jason?" She immediately denied it, almost desperately. "No, there was nothing. We were just friends. But he was interested, and now he thinks I'm toxic, and it's all your fault. I could have had something better, and you sabotaged it." Something better. That was the audacity she spoke with while still being with me. I thought about it silently, surprised by the shamelessness. She continued raising her voice as if that could validate her excuses. I wasn't going to do anything with him. I just liked the attention. What's wrong with that? It's wrong, I answered curtly without beating around the bush. Next topic. Then Linda tried to insert her speech with a melodramatic tone, as if reading a script. We were already planning Thanksgiving, Adrian. I even bought a bigger turkey thinking of everyone. You can't throw everything away for something so silly. I shrugged, giving it no importance. Don't worry, I'm sure Jason likes turkey too. Linda's face immediately changed. It was clear she didn't expect that response. It was Sophia who took a breath and spoke in a solemn voice, as if delivering a verdict. She needs to stay here until she finds another place. She can't stay on Marisol's sofa. That's not healthy or fair. I stayed leaning against the wall, serene, and replied, That's too bad. But let's not forget she was the one who decided to leave, remember? She told me to think about how stupid I was being. Well, I thought about it, and I didn't like the result. That was when Sierra suddenly stood up from the sofa with contained fury. Fine. Then I'm taking everything I bought for this place. I waved my hand across the entire apartment. Go ahead. Take it all if that makes you happy. And she did. She became a hurricane, scouring every corner. The coffee maker disappeared in seconds. A sofa cushion was forcefully stuffed into a bag, and she even ripped down the shower curtain as if she were looting a cheap hotel. Then she moved on to the childish phase. She opened all the remote controls and took out the batteries, keeping a handful of them as if they were a war trophy. Finally, she stood in front of my PlayStation. I'm taking this too. I contributed. I stood in front of her calmly. You contributed by buying one single game. You can keep the disc if you want, but the console stays here. She countered with an argument so ridiculous that even her mother was embarrassed. I also bought food, and you ate it. That money could have gone toward the console. The silence in the room was brutal. Linda looked down, and Sophia pretended she didn't know her sister. In the end, they had to put their things in trash bags because no one had thought to bring boxes. When they were about to leave, Sierra turned around. Her face was flushed, her eyes swollen, and her voice full of resentment. You're going to regret this. No one else is going to put up with how boring you are. I smiled calmly. We'll see. They left, dragging bags and leaving the apartment half empty, but in a silence that tasted like glory. I threw myself onto the sofa, tried to turn on the TV, and found that without the remote batteries I had to get up to change the channel. I laughed to myself. If that was her big move, the only thing she had proven was that I was right. She needed chaos, drama, and attention to exist. Without that, she was nothing. And in that moment, I understood that it wasn't going to end there. Not because I wanted her back, but because people like Sierra don't know how to disappear quietly. Since Jason was already backing off, and she was still living at Marisol's house, it was only a matter of time before she planned her next spectacle. Ironic as it is, even I was expecting it. And it arrived sooner than I thought. Monday morning, Jason, a friend of mine, sent me a link without saying anything else. I opened it, and there it was, a Sierra Instagram story set up like a play. First slide. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Second, upgrading in all aspects of life. Third, when he can't handle your glow. And the final flourish, a photo with Jason in a fancy bar, glasses raised as if celebrating $1 million contract. The caption read, "New beginnings with better energy." I burst out laughing. If she thought that was going to hurt, she had forgotten who she was dealing with. I didn't feel jealous. I felt relief. She had just publicly confirmed everything I already knew, but the best part was in the details. She had tagged the location. And it turns out my cousin Michael works there as a bartender. That same night, I received a message from him. "Bro, your ex is here with a guy. They're on a date, but she won't stop talking about you. It's so weird." I told him to keep me updated. An hour later, he messaged again. "Bro, she won't stop comparing you to him. Like she wants to convince herself that she's better off with him. The guy looks uncomfortable. He wants to run away." The image formed in my head. Sierra trying hard to paint me as a jealous loser while Jason swallowed hard, realizing he had stepped into the quicksand of drama. Michael told me she even said, "Adrian never took me to places like this." And of course, my cousin laughed because I had taken her, and she called them pretentious. She also told Jason that I was too insecure to let her have male friends, which was a joke. She always had many, and I never said anything. What I didn't tolerate was her deleting our couple photos while another guy was liking her gym selfies. By the end of the night, Jason looked like he wanted to disappear under the table. Michael told me that when Jason asked Sierra about her last relationship, she launched into a monologue of almost 20 minutes where she painted me as an emotional monster. Her great evidence was screenshots of our conversations where I was simply asking her to contribute something toward the rent, since she hadn't paid a single cent for 6 months. That was, according to her, proof of abuse. Ridiculous. In the end, Jason lost patience. Paid for his drink, stood up, and left her alone in front of her half-finished cocktail. And right there, she made the worst blunder of the night. She tried to flirt with Michael, not knowing he was my cousin. He didn't mince words and told her, "You know Adrian is family, right?" Sierra turned pale and fled. The next morning, I received a message on LinkedIn. Of all places, it was Jason. "Hey man, I want to apologize. I didn't know you guys were still together when she started reaching out to me. She assured me you had broken up months ago. I'm not that kind of person. I just wanted to clear things up. Also, heads up, she's going around at work saying you were abusive and that she was seeking protection with a real man. Good luck, bro." I laughed to myself when I read it. The irony was perfect. She had criticized me for being boring, and yet she ruined her date with Jason by turning it into a complaint session about me. I couldn't have written it better. I saved the message as evidence in my proof folder and decided it was time to send her a subtle reminder that I wasn't the one crying at cocktail bars. I hadn't posted anything on my personal Instagram for 2 years. My account was practically a digital ghost town. But that night, I broke the silence with a gym selfie and the caption, "Single life on another level. Thanks for the motivation. Sierra Lee." 10 minutes later, she blocked me. But before she did, her sister Sophia messaged me privately, indignant. That was unnecessary. She's going through a hard time. I replied only once. It was just as unnecessary for her to pretend she was single when she wasn't. That's how life works. Every action has consequences. I left her on red and felt incredible. For the first time, I wasn't trapped in her chaos, begging, apologizing, or justifying myself. I was simply living while she dug her own hole deeper and deeper. The problem with Sierra is that she doesn't know how to exist without an audience. Everything she does is built around attention, approval, or validation. She believed that even if Jason left her, she would still have Marisol applauding her antics, Sophia covering her back, and Linda stepping in as a shield. Maybe she would for a while, but I knew that sooner or later she would wear them out too. Because delusional people are like that, constant in their self-destruction. They burn every backup plan, every safety net, until they have no choice but to face themselves. And I had the front row seat with popcorn in hand, watching her best phase turn into an absolute collapse. It didn't take long for her next move. That Friday, coming home from work, I found her sitting in front of my apartment door with 2 huge suitcases. She looked like someone abandoned at a bus station, waiting for a trip that would never arrive. Her hair was messy, tears running down her makeup, a poorly closed sweatshirt. Even the security personnel later showed me the cameras. She had been there for almost 2 hours straight, as if competing in a contest for the most pathetic person in the world. As soon as she saw me, she jumped up. "Adrian, please." I made a mistake. I leaned against the wall without even taking out my keys. "We can talk right here." She tried to approach the door. "Can't we go inside?" "No. Public conversations only. It's safer that way." That was clearly not the answer she expected. Then she went into victim mode with a tragic voice. "Marisol kicked me out. Her roommate came back early from Europe, and on top of that, Jason told everyone at work about our date. Now they call me a homewrecker. I have nowhere to go." I raised an eyebrow. Well, you destroyed your own home. That's your problem. Her lip trembled. My mother's house is too small. Sophia lives with her boyfriend, and I miss what we had. You miss not paying rent? I replied with a sarcastic smile. The victim act immediately ended. Her tears turned to fury, her eyes lit up, and her voice rose. You owe me something. I wasted 2 years on you. I decorated this place. I made it a home. You can't just discard me like this. I raised my hand to stop her. Correction. You discarded yourself the day you posted you were single. Don't try to rewrite history. Just then, my neighbor Tony opened his door. A robust man in his 40s, always in old band t-shirts. He leaned out and asked, "Everything all right, Adrian?" "Yes," I replied loud enough for Sierra to hear. "I'm just explaining to my ex why she can't move back in here." Tony nodded. "The same one who cheated with that Jason guy? My daughter saw it on Instagram." Sierra turned, her face redder than a stop sign. "I wasn't cheating. I was just seeing my options." Tony interrupted her mercilessly. "Advertising for replacements, right?" And he closed his door as if dropping a microphone. I almost applauded him. Shortly after, the security guards arrived. It turned out she had told them at reception that she lived there and had lost her key. When they called me to confirm, I clarified that she no longer resided in the building, so 2 agents appeared with their clipboards ready to escort her out. And that's when Sierra tried her most desperate move. "Wait, I'm pregnant!" I couldn't help but burst out laughing. "No, you're not." Her eyes went wide. "How can you be so sure?" "Because we haven't been intimate in 2 months. There was always an excuse. I'm tired. I don't feel like it. Another day. Remember?" It was the same old Sierra refrain every time I confronted her. Even the security guards seemed to have heard that story too many times. One of them barely managed to hide a mocking smile, while the other brought his hand to his mouth, pretending to cough, though what he was really trying to cover up was suppressed laughter. And there she was, kicking in the middle of the hallway like a small child who had been denied candy. "You're never going to find anyone like me," she bellowed, her face flushed. I didn't get upset. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at her intently and replied serenely, "I pray to God that never happens to me." The guards took her by the arms and escorted her to the elevator. With every step she took, she shouted accusations that I had betrayed her, that I had wasted her time, that my destiny was to die alone. I simply closed the door behind her, locked the bolt, and collapsed onto the sofa. The silence that followed was liberating. Everything that had happened seemed so surreal that all I could do was laugh to myself. It felt like a live performance, an absurd comedy parody in which I was both the protagonist and the spectator. An hour later, my phone started vibrating. I looked at the screen and the caller ID showed a name I didn't expect, Linda, Sierra's mother. I hesitated to answer, but curiosity won. When I picked up, she didn't even give me time to greet her. "How dare you humiliate Sierra like that?" she shouted, with a shrill voice that almost pierced my eardrums. "She's desperate. Can't you understand? You destroyed her reputation." I inhaled deeply to maintain my calm. "No, Linda. She destroyed it herself with her decisions," I replied firmly without getting upset. "She needs a place to stay," she insisted, as if her word held any weight in my life. "That is not my problem." Then, as if she had lost all touch with reality, Linda played her most ridiculous card. "If you agree to take her back, I myself will pay her share of the rent for 3 months. I had to separate the phone from my ear and let out a laugh. It was so absurd I thought she was playing a prank on me. "You're telling me you'll pay me to date your daughter?" I countered incredulously. Silence. An awkward, prolonged silence. Finally, Linda murmured quietly, "She just needs support." "That's truly unfortunate, Linda, but it's not my responsibility. Goodbye." I hung up before she could entangle me in another of her manipulation strategies. The reality was clear. Sierra thought she had power over me. She believed that if she cried dramatically enough, shouted louder than anyone, or threw out shameless lies, I would give in. What she never understood is that when a man disconnects from a relationship mentally and emotionally, There is no turning back. For me, the game was already over. She still wanted to sell me her premium package of drama, but I had already canceled the subscription a long time ago. And of course, I knew that wasn't her last move. People like her always find a new trick, but watching her exhaust all her cards, guilt, manipulation, even a fake pregnancy, and fail in every attempt was better than any Netflix marathon. After a long time, I felt untouchable. That feeling of freedom, of invulnerability, was indescribable. And the funny thing was, I even looked forward with some amusement to her next circus act. The answer came soon. TikTok. A few days later, I received a message from my sister accompanied by a link. The text was simple. This is going to fascinate you. I opened the link and there was Sierra, comfortably installed on Marisol's sofa with the front camera activated. Fake tears ready, and her big debut, dating after emotional abuse. She had set up the entire scene as if it were a professional production. Soft music in the background, a cup in her hands to appear wise and calm, and a speech rehearsed word for word. Healing from a relationship with a narcissist involves learning to recognize red flags, she said solemnly. For example, when they get upset, when you express your authenticity. The authenticity she was referring to was, according to her, when I didn't applaud her Instagram post declaring herself single while we still lived together. In another clip, she added, "Isolation is another dangerous sign, like when they prevent you from forming healthy friendships." I burst out laughing. Isolation? The only friendships I questioned were the men who drooled over her gym photos. The videos had only a couple of hundred views. The comments were from her close circle. Women like Marisol or Sophia writing, "You're a queen. Proud of you. Thank you for your bravery." She, convinced she was about to go viral, kept producing more and more episodes. Meanwhile, I saved screenshots in my evidence folder. Not out of revenge, but because I know the pattern. People like her always rewrite the story, and I prefer to keep the receipts for everything. But as expected, it wasn't over yet. A week later, she suddenly added me to a group chat with a title that spoke for itself: Intervention for Adrian's Commitment Issues. Among the members were Sierra, her parents, Linda and Daniel, Marisol, Sophia, and a couple of unknown people. The first message was from Sierra. "We all worry about you, Adrian, and want to help you confront your patterns of control and hostility." Immediately, a message from Daniel appeared. "Son, I think it's time you grow up. She deserves an apology," I replied calmly. "I already did, Daniel. I grew up, and that's why I'm single." That comment lit the fuse. Messages started pouring in one after another. Marisol accusing me of gaslighting, Sophia labeling me insensitive, and Sierra sending lengthy texts about how I had destroyed her trust. That's when I launched my counterattack. 3 direct screenshots, her original post declaring herself single, Jason's apology on LinkedIn, and the camera security image showing Sierra in front of my door with 2 suitcases. I wrote a single sentence. "Yes, I am the problem. Good luck with that." And I left the group. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. It was Daniel on a private call. I answered, expecting another reprimand, but what I heard surprised me. "I didn't know anything about the Instagram thing. Linda assured me you attacked her without reason. I apologize, son. She gets that sense of entitlement from her mother, believe me. It runs in the blood. You know why I work so many extra hours." And he hung up. He didn't even give me time to respond. It was, without exaggeration, the most honest thing anyone from that family had said to me in 3 years. I thought that would close the chapter, but I was wrong. Sierra still had one last ace up her sleeve. The following Monday, I received an email from my human resources representative summoning me to her office. When I arrived, the first thing I saw was Sierra and Linda sitting in reception, dressed in formal attire as if for a court hearing, each with folders full of papers, whispering to the receptionist and giving me looks full of false confidence. I remember perfectly the day Human Resources called me to the office. They closed the door, and the manager told me with a serious face, "Your ex and her mother just came here claiming you have anger issues that could affect your job performance." I couldn't help but laugh. It was so absurd it seemed like a joke. I asked if she believed them, and she shook her head. No, but we have protocols. Security is escorting them out of the building right now. Also, they will be given a no-contact notification and banned from the premises. Hearing that was music to my ears. When I left, it coincided exactly with the moment the guards were taking them to the exit. Linda was red with fury, while Sierra had a haughty smile, convinced she had won something. That smirk vanished abruptly when one of the guards scanned her visitor pass and informed her, "Effective immediately. Entry to this building is prohibited." The way her face fell was straight out of a cartoon. For the first time, she understood that gravity exists. That same night, I reported several of her TikTok videos where she used my photos without permission. A week later, her account was suspended, and her career as a supposed emotional recovery coach ended before it began. I thought that would be the end of it, but she fell again. She created a fake Instagram profile, a Finsta, with a random name, and started following me. It didn't take me long to discover her because she made a childish mistake. At 3 a.m., she liked a photo of me from 2019 of my old car. Only someone as obsessed as her would go back years at that hour. I saved the evidence with a screenshot and blocked the account. The funny thing is, I no longer felt angry. I was actually amused. Every desperate move sank her deeper, and all her efforts to portray me as the villain backfired. The best part was that I didn't have to do absolutely anything. I was untouchable while she wore herself out trying to provoke a reaction that I never gave her. When you stop feeding the chaos, people like Sierra start falling apart faster. And that's exactly what happened. While I lived peacefully, she accelerated her own self-destruction. First, it was her job. Jason, the friend who worked at her company, called me one day early. "Bro, your ex is about to be fired. She spends all her time recording TikToks in the bathroom instead of going to meetings. The boss can't take it anymore." And indeed, a week later, she was officially fired. The scandal with Jason, the guy she pursued while still living with me, didn't help either. Her colleagues no longer took her seriously, especially after seeing her posting videos where she painted herself as a victim of emotional abuse. One of them told Jason, "Stay away from her. She's always crying over her ex." The woman who had called me boring and replaceable was now unemployed, without stable housing, and even banned from my building. Her family wasn't doing better either. Daniel, her father, called me one night, saying in an exhausted voice, "This is the last straw. I can't keep tolerating your ex and her mother's tantrums. I'm filing for divorce." For a moment, I felt sorry for him, but only for a moment. Then there was Marisol, the supposed unconditional friend, the one who blocked people on command, insulted me on social media, and wrote long texts calling me toxic. That loyalty quickly crumbled. I learned, thanks to an acquaintance, that Sierra had practically turned Marisol's apartment into a personal camp. She ate her food, never cleaned, made noise at all hours recording videos, and spent entire nights ranting about me. Marisol got fed up, waited for her to go out, changed the locks, and then sent her a direct message. "Don't come back. You're no longer welcome." Beautiful. Her sister Sophia also didn't give her much support. She wrote vague posts on Facebook like, "I'm disappointed in family members who don't know how to take responsibility." Everyone understood who she was talking about. Even Sophia was embarrassed to have to justify Sierra. Meanwhile, Jason, the guy in the scandal, asked for a transfer to another office. He packed his bags and left without looking back. Who would want to stay and be part of such a circus? The ultimate failure was her attempt to raise money. She created a GoFundMe page called Healing from Emotional Trauma, telling a story of abandonment, unemployment, and an abusive relationship. She wanted to raise $5,000. The mistake was posting it on her public Instagram account. In less than an hour, Jason, my friend, shared the campaign in our friend group, and the ridicule was immediate. Comments like, "Weren't you trying to move back into his apartment last week? Does emotional trauma pay for the grocery list?" Even my friends donated $1 each with messages like, "For new batteries," or "Buy yourself another shower curtain." The harassment was so severe that she canceled the campaign in 2 days. By then, I had stopped paying attention. She was taking care of her own destruction. Meanwhile, I moved on. At the climbing gym, I met Vanessa, a girl completely different from Sierra. Fun, grounded, zero interest in social media. From our first message, she sent me something that made me laugh. Just in case my relationship status matches on all my platforms. That's when I knew she was worth it. We started dating, and thanks to her, I completely forgot all the noise Sierra had created. No games, no drama, no fake tears, just peace. As if destiny wanted to give me one last victory, Sierra couldn't resist performing one last stunt. She uploaded a selfie with swollen eyes and disheveled hair, accompanied by the text, "Single by choice, healing from trauma, ready for my new phase." Someone commented, "Weren't you begging your ex to take you back recently?" The post disappeared in less than an hour. That was her final scene, deleting her own mess while I laughed, hanging from a climbing wall with Vanessa. Today, when I think about everything that happened, I'm surprised by the peace I feel. For a long time, I blamed myself, stayed awake looking for answers, and let myself be consumed by arguments that led nowhere. But the reality is I was never wrong. She needed chaos to feel alive, and I only wanted peace. In the end, I discovered that the best way to win was not to shout or expose her, but simply to step aside and let her show who she was. Every misstep took her further away from the image she was trying to build. And while she wore herself out in an absurd game of lies and victimhood, I recovered something more valuable than any relationship: my freedom. There was no final speech or epic confrontation. Her defeat was silent, made of deleted posts, worn-out excuses, and doors closing one after another. I, on the other hand, found myself enjoying new experiences, surrounded by genuine people, and with the certainty that my life no longer depended on her whims. I learned that you don't need to ruin anyone to get ahead. Sometimes it's enough to stand firm, not give them the attention they seek, and focus on building something better. She got trapped in her spiral, and I continued on my own path. The most ironic thing is that I thought losing her would be a blow, but it was the exact opposite. It was the beginning of everything that was truly worthwhile.